The movie opens by introducing Yossi, a young Israeli adventurer, who is seeking adventure and new experiences. Yossi is driven by a desire to break away from the conventional path laid out for him and is eager to explore the world. He arrives in South America, full of enthusiasm and anticipation for the journey ahead. He's a bit of a dreamer, searching for something more meaningful in life. He quickly befriends a traveler, Marcus, who's a Swiss schoolteacher. The two bond over their shared love for adventure and their desire to explore the uncharted parts of the world. The two enjoy the freedom and excitement of traveling, with Yossi particularly thrilled about the possibilities that lie ahead. They discuss their plans and aspirations, and there's a sense of camaraderie and optimism among them. Later, Marcus sees his old friend named Kevin, who's an American photographer. Surprised and happy to see each other, Marcus introduces him to Yossi and the three hang out and share drinks between one another, discussing their adventures. The next day, Yossi is wandering the streets of the city, soaking in the local culture and atmosphere. He is in search of adventure and something that will take him off the beaten path. While walking through the market street in La Paz, a man walks up to him and introduces himself as Carl. He strikes up a conversation with Yossi, sensing his eagerness for adventure. He tells Yossi about an undiscovered indigenous tribe deep in the Amazon rainforest and a hidden treasure of gold. Carl speaks of the jungle with such enthusiasm and authority that Yossi is instantly intrigued. Later, Yossi tells his friends about Carl and convinces them to meet with him tomorrow. Carl brings a map of the Amazon rainforest, spreading it out on the table. He points out the route they would take, highlighting the areas where they would find the indigenous tribe and the supposed hidden treasure. Kevin, being more cautious and level-headed, listens intently but expresses skepticism. He questions Carl about the dangers and the feasibility of such an expedition. Sensing Kevin's hesitation, Carl shifts his approach. He acknowledges the risks but emphasizes the potential rewards. With Kevin now on board, the group collectively decides to embark on the journey. They are driven by a mix of curiosity, the allure of adventure, and the potential for both personal and professional gain. The next day, the group steps into the jungle, immediately engulfed by the thick vegetation. The forest is dense and humid, with towering trees that block out most of the sunlight. The air is thick with the sounds of the jungle, the chirping of insects, the calls of distant birds, and the rustling of leaves. Carl takes the lead, confidently guiding them through the narrow paths and overgrown trails. He uses a machete to hack through the underbrush, creating a path for the others to follow. In the evening, Carl explains that the indigenous people are deeply connected to the jungle. They know its secrets, its dangers, and its gifts. He describes their spiritual practices, which are intertwined with nature. The group listens intently, with a mix of fascination and apprehension. Yossi is intrigued, his adventurous spirit piqued by the idea of encountering such a unique culture. The next day, as the group ventures deeper into the Bolivian jungle, the weather begins to take a turn for the worse. The trail becomes increasingly difficult to navigate. The group has to tread carefully to avoid slipping on the wet, uneven ground. The following day, after enduring the harsh rain and treacherous conditions of the previous evening, the friends find it hard to keep up with Carl, as their muscles are sore, their feet blistered, and their spirits dampened. As they try walking, the difference in pace between Carl and the rest of the group becomes more pronounced. Eventually, they approach the village. The group is struck by the simplicity and beauty of the community. The village is nestled in a clearing surrounded by dense jungle, with traditional huts made of wood and thatch scattered around. After settling in, the group head to a nearby river to wash off the grime of the jungle. Later, they gather with the villagers around a large, communal fire at the center of the village. The group is offered local refreshments by the villagers. The drink has a slightly sour taste. There's a strong sense of community among the villagers, which the group finds both comforting and intriguing. The next day, Kevin, initially skeptical of the entire journey, finds his passion for photography rekindled in the village. Shortly, they leave the village and go on a new adventure. As they make their way through the jungle, they encounter a series of obstacles, thick vines, mud, and narrow paths. Carl leads the way, using his machete to clear the overgrowth and creating a path for the group. Later, as the group sets out, Marcus falls behind. He tries to maintain the pace, but his limp becomes more pronounced. Carl takes a look at Marcus's foot and provides some basic first aid, using supplies they have on hand to treat the blister and relieve pressure. Later, Yossi and Kevin's frustration is pronounced due to the delay affecting their progress. They view Marcus's injury as a hindrance to their plans, leading to feelings of impatience and irritation. Marcus feels a deep sense of regret and frustration. He is disheartened by his inability to keep up with the group and is aware of the inconvenience his condition is causing. Marcus's apology is heartfelt and sincere. The next day, Given Marcus's injury and the difficulty he's experiencing while walking, the group decides that creating a makeshift boat will help transport him along the stream, reducing the strain on his foot. Members of the group spread out to gather materials. They look for broken branches, large leaves and other natural resources that can be used to construct the boat. They get on the boat and sail off. Carl is visibly bothered about something, and when he's asked he brushes it off. Soon they see rocks ahead and Carl tells the group to stay in the middle. They pedal as hard as they can to avoid hitting the rocks. Eventually they get to safe land and drag the boat to the shore. The next day, as the group prepares to depart, Carl makes it clear that he will not be joining them on the boat. Carl announces his decision to walk through the forest instead of taking the boat. The tension between Carl and Kevin is evident. Earlier arguments have left Carl feeling particularly irked by Kevin. Realizing that he can't keep up with Kevin and Yossi, Marcus tells Yossi that he'll rather go with Carl since they are searching for an adventure. The two groups say their goodbyes and go on their separate ways. With a mix of determination and uncertainty, Yossi and Kevin push off from the riverbank. The current quickly takes hold of the boat, pulling them into the heart of the river. Shortly, Kevin is the first to notice the jagged rocks protruding from the water ahead. The realization hits them both simultaneously. Yossi and Kevin's calm determination quickly transforms into sheer panic as they see the deadly obstacle looming closer. As they hit a huge rock in the middle of the river, they hold onto their boat, as the current tries pushing them along the stream. Kevin decides to swim through the current and get to shore. Luckily he gets to safety, but Yossi gets taken by the current and the two friends lose each other, as Yossi is forcefully pushed down the river. Eventually, Yossi gets pushed to the shore and realizes how lucky he is to have survived. He gets to higher grounds to navigate where he is. The next day, he shouts for Kevin, but his voice echoes through the forest. Yossi knows he needs to keep moving to have any chance of survival, but navigating through the thick underbrush and uneven ground is exhausting. The climb is grueling and Yossi's physical condition is deteriorating. The days without proper food and water are taking a toll on his body. His legs feel like lead and his hands are blistered from the constant grasping at rocks and branches. Mentally, the isolation and fear are beginning to break him down. As he tries to find his way, he starts to doubt whether he'll ever find his friends or even make it out of the jungle alive. The once hopeful journey now feels like a hopeless struggle for survival. Elsewhere, two local men notices something unusual on the riverbank. As they get closer, they realize it's a person and it's Kevin, lying unconscious and barely moving. The men push off from the riverbank and begin paddling back toward their village, knowing that Kevin needs medical attention and rest. Meanwhile, Yossi suddenly hears something different, something out of place. At first, it's faint, but it quickly grows louder. The sound of a plane engine cutting through the air above the canopy jolts him out of his exhausted stupor. But unfortunately, the plane passes him as the forest is too dense for the pilot to spot him. A few days later, Yossi, exhausted and on the brink of despair, hears the rustle of movement ahead. As he checks, he sees a local bush lady. Not wanting to startle her, Yossi slowly approaches, his hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. He's careful with his movements, aware that she's frightened and distrustful of him. The language barrier between them becomes immediately apparent. Yossi knows he needs to convince her to stay with him, as he can't bear the thought of being alone again. With the bush lady by his side, Yossi feels a renewed sense of hope. They set off together, navigating the jungle in silence, each step a small victory. Though they don't share a language, the mere presence of another human being brings Yossi a comfort he hasn't felt in weeks. But it soon becomes apparent that it's his mind playing tricks on him. The next day, he pushes through the forest, but his mental health gets worse by the day. He finds his way back to the river and stays there for the night. Day 19, Kevin comes back to the area with help and looks around for any trace for Yossi. Losing hope of finding him, Yossi gets up from his sleeping area and summons his last strength to get up. Luckily Kevin sees him and Yossi drops to his knees thanking God that he's seen. They get him back to the boat and take him back to the village to get him medical assistance. The villagers are surprised to see him alive after 20 days. Make sure to like and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time, see you soon.